All right, so I'm going to reset the screen for our new round of humans. Pardon me just a moment while I find the correct set. Oh, we lost. No, we don't have a Morgan yet. Okay, so we're just wait. There he is. Yay! It's okay. So I'm gonna leave you good souls in good hands with Nancy and take a break after I say it's been too long. We all need to get together and be dorks and we do. Osiris Rex was amazing. All right, so I'm gonna mute and take a break. Yeah. Okay. I will be back. Yeah, I get half an hour. I will be back. It's okay. Bye bye.
Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Whoa.
So I guess you guys are going to be here talking about the news, but for anybody who watches Weekly Space Hangout, you guys are familiar faces. But we have a lot of new viewers as part of this. So why don't you each take a couple minutes and tell us who you are and what you do?
Go ahead, Morgan.
All right. Well, howdy, y'all. My name is Dr. Morgan Renberg, and I'm the chief scientist at the Fort Worth Museum of Science and History. So I design exhibits. We're working on one right now all about climate change. We've got a great one open right now all about the second mission to the moon, Apollo 12, which happened to have somebody from Fort Worth walking on the moon. And I just get to sort of go and do all around cool things, one of which happens to be talking about the space news every once in a while.
And we love it.
With Sandy and Nancy and all the crew.
I'm Sandy. I am a PhD candidate or a doctoral candidate at the University of Arizona in Tucson, which there are a lot of astronomers in this town. I study asteroids and comets. I used to be a little more regular on the Weekly Space Hangout, but I'm trying to graduate. And yeah, my roommate has a cat. She might make an appearance if I can nab her. So stay tuned.
Okay, cool. So because you guys talk about the news all the time, we thought it would be good for you to give a summary or a roundup of the exciting stuff from the past year or recent news.
Right. Yeah.
Morgan, why don't you start with Starliner?
Well, yeah, so that's recent news. I think everybody's been watching seen the news that Starliner launched, kind of. It did its thing, kind of. And now, just a couple of hours ago, it's safely returned back to Earth. So the whole idea here was that was launching a demonstration mission to show that everything's ready for them to put humans on the next mission, and be one of the two companies working to return American astronauts to the International Space Station from American soil. And both Boeing and SpaceX have encountered difficulties in the last couple of years as they've been working on this project, but we kind of thought everything had sort of been worked out. The parachutes were working, the rockets were working, everything was good to go. And this was just Boeing's sort of last dress rehearsal before the real deal. But it didn't quite work out that way because they got up to orbit and the engine started blasting away, taking them totally not where they were supposed to go and using up a bunch of that precious fuel. And that's obviously not what was supposed to happen. And it's very early. The spacecraft just landed a couple of hours ago, but it seems like there was an issue with the timing computer on board the spacecraft. It got the wrong time from the rocket or handled that time incorrectly. And even today, we think of computers or of spacecraft today of being these super advanced machines that kind of sense everything around them, decide what to do and take action. But they're actually really in some ways not that different than the kinds of machines that flew up as part of Mercury and Gemini and Apollo, which use these things called sequencers. Sequencers were the very first computers on board orbital spacecraft, and they basically just stored a list of things to do and a list of times to do them. And so they'd have a clock, and when the clock ticked over to the next thing on the list, the computer would push the button, the thing would happen. And that's essentially what was supposed to happen here. Is the Starliner was supposed to launch on board the Atlas V. It would go up into orbit. It would coast
Atlas
for a
V?
little while on the Atlas V. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Oh wait, I'm confused. Never mind.
Yeah, and it'd coast for a little while, and then it would burn its rocket to begin the approach to the space station. What happened instead was it launched aboard the Atlas V, and almost immediately started burning its rocket. And by the time they had figured that out, it had used up too much fuel to actually safely approach the space station. And so they orbited for a couple of days and then brought it back down to Earth, landing at White Sands Missile Range out in New Mexico. And so all the like critical stuff worked right. The rocket worked, the thrusters on board the spacecraft worked, the heat shield worked, the parachutes worked. They said that the astronauts never would have been in any danger. And had there actually been astronauts on board, they probably would have realized something wasn't right and fixed it before they had wasted all this fuel. So like in one sense, all the important stuff worked, but this was supposed to be the dress rehearsal where everything went right, and it didn't. Not everything did go right. And so NASA's now got some tough choices to make, because if they require Boeing to do another test mission, that's going to lengthen the period of time before they can actually put humans into it by, months at the most optimistic. And that's a tough thing to do if only sort of one piece didn't work and you think you know what it is. We'll have to wait and see. SpaceX is supposed to perform their final test, which will be an abort test on January 11th or a few days after that. And if that all goes well, then they'll be on track to launch astronauts to the ISS by the middle of 2020. And the question basically now is, will Boeing sort of be on a similar path, or will this problem push them farther back and make way for SpaceX to be the first company to do this successfully?
In the chat, Bad Panda Bear is saying that he saw that the clock was 11
hours off.
Now,
time zone.
Yeah, we all hate
why
time.
wasn't this caught? And why wasn't there like a mandatory 24-hour hold?
Well, it wasn't caught until they were in space. I saw a good quote from the head guy on the project at Boeing, and he said, "If I knew why this had happened, it wouldn't have happened."
Yeah, but
but this is kind of rookie stuff to get wrong for a company that is nominally, the reason Boeing got this contract was because they claimed this huge legacy in reliable space operation.
Now, did you see any reports where they were able to correct the clock? Because I would think if it was off by that much, it would have impacted their ability to return to Earth safely.
Right. Yes, they did successfully update the clock from a satellite, probably GPS or something like that, after they realized there was a problem. And that's what allowed the landing sequence to proceed as expected. And had they had enough fuel, it sounded like everything else was fine, and they were, would have been clear to proceed to dock with the station. But they had burned off so much of the fuel in this mistake that they didn't have that much left, and so they used it basically to go through all of their other maneuvering tests to show that they could raise their orbit and lower their orbit and rotate the spacecraft and all of that stuff. But by the time they'd done all that, they didn't have enough fuel left to safely approach the space station. And you don't want to be on the edge, because if you crash into the space station, then that's a big oops.
Yeah, makes sense.
So we'll see.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot, space is still hard and people are still figuring out how to get the right time from Atlas V, or have Atlas V send the right time.
It's just weird. These are things like, when's the last time your phone had the wrong time? Like never. Why did the spacecraft have to get the time from the satellite at all?
Well,
or from the rocket?
From the Atlas? Is that standard procedure?
Maybe it is. It's just the kind of things you don't think about as as a normal, not rocket scientist. We all think that time is time, and
Time is actually
what could be
really
the
hard.
problem?
Any programmer who says, "Oh, time zones, those can't be that hard," is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
time
and
zones
yeah,
are
like
terrible.
They've never tried to herd cats around the world.
Yeah, but like there
Well, I
shouldn't
mean,
be
like
time
there's,
zone
and then there's
problems
like
in
all
this kind of
these
thing because
time
it's all done
standards.
on UTC.
Right.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's
Yeah.
funny because as I was setting up my various laptops yesterday for the hackathon, one of them, the clock was off by an hour, and I did not realize that until probably halfway through the day yesterday. So stuff happens, and I have no idea why it didn't pick up on it because it was connected to the internet. It's set to get time that way. So, but you would think that for something like this, they would have as a check on their checklist, confirmed time.
Yeah, there will be that check now.
No one's going to make
These
that
things-
mistake again. I mean, that's
Yeah,
why
no, that's just crazy.
that's why JPL, these places have checklists that are like 4,000 items long or 400 pages of these are all these things you must do in a mission because someone made this mistake in the past and it cost a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody who worked on a Mars mission that launched in the last decade, and they said that to get the mission off the pad, they had a safety checklist of 10,000 items, and the spacecraft went through something like 180 separate safety reviews, which were like hour-long meetings in an office
Wow.
somewhere to do something, and that kind of 10,000 item checklist across hundreds of meetings is why NASA missions almost never fail compared to the Europeans or the Japanese or the Russians. Is this just sort of excruciating amount of detail that was all hard earned through mistakes that have happened in the past, and this will be item 10,001 on that list, and there'll now be somebody whose job it is to go up with a stopwatch and check the time 5 minutes before it launches or something.
Right.
Yeah, it's like some people say, oh, NASA culture has gotten so complacent and like this large bureaucratic behemoth, but there are benefits to having procedures and checklists. They're good enough for airline pilots and brain surgeons. They should be good enough for putting things into space.
Absolutely.
So Sandy,
Anyway.
What did you have as the best or the coolest thing that happened this year?
Well, that image of the black hole of M87 was pretty neat. Using the Event Horizon Telescope, all these telescopes around the world writing software to process the signals from all these telescopes and get that glowing donut image of the black hole at the center of M87. That was really cool. I mean, not just that you're getting images of this black hole that's almost 7 billion times more massive than the sun. Not only that this thing is, how many light years away, 50-ish light years away, that, not only that all this 53 million light years away. So this light left about 10 million years after the dinosaurs died. That this light has been traveling across the galaxy for so long that we're able to use all these telescopes to put it together. The fact that it was such this large collaborative human effort really shows you what we can do when we work together as people, and that you really needed all sorts of different skill sets from the people at the telescopes, from the people developing software algorithms to process the image data and finally get that wonderful glowing donut.
Well, and hopefully next year we'll get to see the Event Horizon Telescope image for our black hole.
Ooh.
And this is the thing that just sort of boggles my mind is, our black hole is, like millions of times closer to, or thousands of times closer to us than the M87 one is. And yet it was M87 that they're going to be like almost the same resolution, because all the dust and stuff between us and stars, between us and the black hole, is making processing so much more difficult than it was for M87. And so we'll see something that looks pretty similar, but this time we'll be able to compare it to all of these measurements we've made through other means of our local supermassive black hole. And I think that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, I just love that we're finally able, to confirm these predictions from Einstein and to start making, start seeing these things that we've talked about for so long and that people were so skeptical could possibly exist.
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out what I thought the coolest thing was. And I was going to talk, and maybe we'll still talk a little bit about Parker Solar Probe, which I
Parker
think
Solar
has had a
Probe's pretty
really,
cool.
really exciting first year of observations. But then I realized, I remembered, holy cow, January 1st was the date of the flyby of MU-69.
Really?
That was this year.
Oh my gosh.
And it wasn't until weeks and months later that we've gotten back all of those pictures and to see the snowman with the contact binary.
And not only that it was a snowman, it's like a pancake man. That it's two kind of flattish things stuck together, that they're not spherical, which is super interesting because they'd saw something like that during the occultation. And we're kind of like, but apparently it fits the shape, the formation models pretty well.
This is why I think planetary science is so much cooler than astronomy, is because the black hole image was awesome, but it's like it happened, and now it is. With something like the flyby, it was kind of evolving in front of our eyes, where you got that first kind of blurry picture, and then we could really sort of see the snowman, and then we realized that the snowman was actually a snow pancake, and so on and so forth. And it's like you're seeing it all unfold in front of you. And I just think the sort of magic of that is so cool.
That you get to see the black and white images and the color images. And then, as you wait, you get more and more data coming down because the spacecraft is so far away and the data takes so long to get here.
And everything is just like a little not perfect. There's things are blurry or a little out of sync, and it's getting better every day.
I mean, the spacecraft flew a little over 2,000 miles away from the object, 3,500 kilometers, and that you're getting this resolution on an object that's 40 kilometers across, something like that.
Well, and like the color of asphalt.
35. Yeah,
it's like black against the blackness of space.
Yeah, these things are it's like imaging black cats in a coal bin. I can't take.
Always count on you to bring the cat metaphor.
Right.
She is a black cat, but I don't. Maybe I'll go grab her.
I want to take a second to thank Cheddarson for tipping $2.86.
Chester.
And
thank you.
Possum 8404 for tipping $2.14. And I suspect somewhere there's a palindrome out there.
All
Chet,
right.
I'll give you a beer tonight at board games.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, Sandy, what of all the things that CosmoQuest does, what's your favorite one?
I really like that it really brings a lot of people together for community science, and that Pamela, and all the folks at CosmoQuest are so committed to making science accessible to so many people and doing it in a way that is just so and lacking in presumption. And Astronomy Cast. How about you, Morgan?
I always moon mappers cool, and every once in a while I'll just flip it on and map a few craters on Vesta or the moon or something. And I just think it's so cool because when else are you ever going to just randomly look at some tiny corner of another planet? That sounds like a lot of work. And even if you just pull up Google Earth or Worldwide Telescope or something and you zoom in, it's a lot of work. But there's just a magic button you hit, and suddenly you get a whole little corner of the universe. And I think it's kind of addicting. And you get this one little thing you do on each image, so you kind of get this kind of process going and you get in the flow. And it's just, I've always loved moon mappers. But I got an email the other day too from we passed 10 years of the 365 days of astronomy podcast. And that's actually the very first thing I did as a science communicator. It was before I had even gone to grad school. I got accepted to grad school, and I was there over the summer, and I was working a job. And I told myself that, I didn't want to get pigeonholed into one tiny little piece of astronomy. And so I decided, hey, I'm going to contribute a podcast every month to the 365 Days of Astronomy that talks about all the news from the last month.
Awesome.
And then at some point, somebody said, hey, do you know there's a thing that does that every week? you don't even have to wait a whole month. And sent me a link to Weekly Space Hangout. And when it came time to renew the podcast season for the next year, I emailed whoever was trying to get me to renew and said, I'll do another season, but only if you let me do this Weekly Space Hangout thing too. And that was way back in 2012. So,
Wow.
8 years ago now. Little did I know that submitting that first 365 Days of Astronomy podcast was going to be like the gateway drug that got me sucked into a decade of science. And I know, Nancy, that you got sucked in through some similarly little innocuous thing that you didn't know was going to grow to consume your existence.
Yeah, exactly. I found Astronomy Cast and started listening to it on my way to and from work. And Fraser and Pamela were always there saying, we want you to help. Just let us know. And I happened to find the Facebook page for AC. And at the time, there was just spammers galore in there. So I reached out and said, hey, I have a little experience doing some admin type work. Would you consider, bringing me on as a mod so that I can help kind of clean this up? And here I am now.
Yeah.
That critical mistake of volunteering.
Yeah, but you know what? It's the best mistake I ever made. This community is such an amazing community. I've always loved space. I've always loved astronomy. I'm an Apollo baby, grew up during the missions, and had intended to follow an astronomy path or a geology path in college, and then kind of had my squirrel moment when I discovered engineering. So I've always had this passion, and here I am having fun doing this. And the group of people here, you're all family.
Aw.
And I hope, every single member of crew and everyone watching in the various chats can see that, because that's what makes us such a special group.
Yeah, it's so rare. I mean, who hasn't watched a YouTube video with, somebody who says, leave a comment below and I'll do X, Y, or Z. And nobody ever actually means it.
Right.
It's just a way to get you to scroll down past the subscribe button.
Right.
But you sort of discover that, holy cow, these people actually exist and are real. I was texting Kimberly for an hour yesterday trying to plan out this vacation that we want to do together. And it's just all of these people are there and real, and that can be you. Can be part of that if you'll just click the button and raise your hand and do the thing. And that has never ceased to amaze me, that I was a college kid, didn't know a planet from a star, and now I am getting to do all of this cool stuff every weekend and every month, and it's just so awesome.
Yeah, I have to tell you, when I saw my name as host on our spreadsheet, I had a panic moment. Because at the time there was nobody listed as guests, and I'm just like, oh boy. But then Pamela said there was going to be the two of you, and I was like,
Morgan, did you get voluntold for this time slot?
I thought you did me.
I was like, oh, I'll goof off with Morgan for an hour. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Voice from nowhere saying, yes, Sandy voluntold Morgan. I thought the two of you had discussed it in the background.
Oh, no. I was just like, I'll do this.
It happened to be one of the 2 hours in this entire 40 hours that I was actually available. I have to leave in 5 minutes to go meet my fiance's family, meeting my family for the first time. And it just
congratulations, by the way.
Totally fell into my lap, and I was like, wow, I didn't sign up for this, but it worked out. And
none of us signed up for this.
Yeah, that's
but CosmoQuest, I feel like CosmoQuest is, everything, this whole organization, institution is very, I don't know, it seems very positive. People like coming together in support of CosmoQuest. Even Chet Cheddarson donating earlier. Thank you,
Right.
Chester. That, and it's always great when Pamela comes into town and she organizes some meetup and I meet some of her posse or, friends of CosmoQuest or friends of Astronomy Cast or even other guests.
Hmm.
And it's always, just been such a positive community.
That's what makes it
Yeah.
special.
Yeah, be careful donating because it's like the first click on a journey that's going to suck you down for the next 10 years. And so if you don't like having fun and learning things and meeting cool people, then you definitely should not donate because you will be sucked into a world of really amazing stuff that you didn't know was out there. And it'll be the biggest mistake of your life.
Yep. And if you want to make lifelong friends, don't donate.
All right, let's talk
I've
about
met
Parker
people
Solar
who-
Probe for a second.
No,
Okay,
that
let's
came
talk
out
about-
wrong. That came out so wrong. Backwards. If you don't like making, whatever. I'm not even going to try.
You should just donate. It'll be a good choice.
Donate, yes.
Oh, and
Yeah.
Pamela reminds me that donations are tax deductible where law allows. So I think that's most of the United States and who knows outside of the United States.
Right.
But
And
you should donate to this institution because you will get, you can put it as a credit on
They're
your tax
always
return.
deductible in karma points, even if you're not somewhere where
Right.
the law is so virtuous.
and you should check with your employer because a lot of times employers have matching programs. So if you make a donation, you might be able to double the impact through your employer.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah.
And
Right
the other
thing to
great
do.
thing is now Pamela is at the Planetary Science Institute,
Yes.
which is this lovely group in Tucson. And I am so glad she finally joined. And they seem to be really supporting her and CosmoQuest and her various non-nefarious plots. And what's been great is that she gets to show up in August for their research retreat. And so I got to see Pamela for a few minutes because I crashed their research retreat. I'm kind of like their little mascot. But hopefully I'm graduating before August so I don't see Pamela at the research retreat in August, as much as I would love to.
You just have to make it a point to see her away from there.
Exactly.
Are you telling me you wouldn't take a job in Tucson if you were offered one?
It depends on the job in Tucson and if I can leave for the months of June and September.
That is fair.
Because June, it gets to be like 115 sometimes. And then September, it's like 105, but 30% humidity.
Ooh.
Which most of you,
It's a-
and 30% humidity when it's 105 is just like, we're all dying in Tucson. You're like, oh,
It's a good
so
thing
humid.
to have in your back pocket, though. When I first moved to Texas, people kept warning me about how hot it was going to be in the summer and how bad it was going to be. I was like, oh, I've lived in Tucson. It's gonna be just fine. And it was not one day was it over 110 degrees. And I thought, that's so bad.
Yeah, 115, it kind of feels like your eyeballs are charring. But then in August, you get rain and you get monsoons, and that's when all the telescopes shut down. You can look at discovery statistics for asteroids, and there's this dip in July and August, and it's like, oh, is it because the galactic plane is up? Is it because of this other thing? No, it's because it rains in Tucson in July and August, and you can't run your telescope then, and so baby asteroids don't get christened. Strange facts with Sandy and Morgan.
Yes.
So how long until an asteroid gets named after Baby Yoda?
Okay. So
I know there's
that's
rules about
hard.
this kind of thing.
We're gonna have to work at that. There's
Someone's
rules.
gonna have to name their child Baby Yoda.
Oh,
And then
Exactly.
it'll be okay.
So there's rules against fictional characters. Though, like if it's part of mythology or cultural heritage, then it's easier to do. But someone got around that by naming an asteroid after their cat named Mr. Spock because he was inquisitive and had pointy ears, I think was the rationale. And the IAU was like, that's the last asteroid you can name after your pet. So if you know of anyone
Right.
who's named Baby Yoda, or maybe their first name is Yoda and their last name is Baby, or so it could be
Yoda,
we're gonna have
baby.
to. This is gonna have to be very considered and
Yeah. Find
very
someone willing
carefully
to
done.
name their kid Baby Yoda. Slap them upside the head. Tell them, what the heck are you thinking? Then let them do
middle
it.
name.
And call up the IAU and said, "We got it, suckers."
I mean, yeah. I mean, I bet I could name an asteroid after Bob the Blob. Just be like Bob Mitchell. Really supportive of astronomical observations of comets during this coordinated multi-wavelength observing campaign 2016 through 2019. And Bob Mitchell is a very reasonable name. Just he's
All right. So here's the thing.
17-pound tabby.
I think there should be a loophole in the rule that if the object you are naming looks like the thing you want to name it after, it is okay. So like if you wanted to name MU69 Frosty the Snowman, you can. That's allowed. And if you can find a thing on Earth that looks like the thing in space, you can use that name.
So I don't want to take up too much time. I don't know who's on the next hour, but one of the tools for archiving data into the planetary data system is named Olaf. And I think it would be hilarious to put a 3D model of a snowman in Olaf on April Fool's Day. But the individual who runs the PDS here in Tucson
Not a Frozen fan?
doesn't really share my sense of humor.
Ah,
It doesn't even know what Frozen is. I'm not going to name names because I admire and appreciate and respect this individual a lot. And if they don't share my sense of humor, that's fine. They're doing an incredible job for a thankless task of archiving data. But it means you can go into the planetary data system and download images taken by spacecraft, images taken by Hubble of various astronomical objects. And you know that data will be there for a long time and that it will
PDS
still be
is a national
accessible.
treasure.
Yes.
All right. Well, happy holidays, everybody.
yes.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Hangoutathon is one of my favorite things every year. I'm glad we could sneak in
Yeah, I'm glad you guys made it.
and get it done. Good luck with the last few hours. The end is in sight. The tunnel is lit. You can do this. We will see it through.
Repent. The end.
I'm so glad that you all were able to join us, and it's always a pleasure. I look forward to getting to see you. And Sandy, you need to find a job at like WashU or something so that we can stay in contact better. And one of these days, I need to purposefully get stuck at DFW so I can see you, Morgan.
Yes, indeed.
You can take the train from DFW to Morgan's place.
Sandy has ridden the train directly to my house.
It is $2.50. It is a steal.
That is amazing.
In
amazing.
Texas.
So
It's a brave new world. Bye, y'all.
I will
Say
see
hi to
you all
Katie.
later.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Happy New
Happy
Year.
holidays.
Check your mail
Thank you,
soon.
Nancy. You rocked it.
Thanks.
Thanks, Pamela. Thanks, Nancy. Catch you all later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.